Now the whole thing is completely reversed, but the reason is he doesn't want to admit that there's a suffering messianic death in the scrolls. And so he's changed the whole thing around, and that's what all of the establishment scholars have now done, which is fair enough. He may be right, but the point, what we were trying to say is that there is no doubt that we have a messianic execution of some type being referred to in this text within the framework of familiar messianic prophecy. That's all we were trying to point out, that the parallels with early Christian ideas about a messianic prophecy are very strong in these Qumran texts. And here was one that was sat on for 35 years. We were not saying that we had the final reading. Now these are the kind of disputes you get into, and as I said, there's another version of that last column. I can't find it offhand. It's a beautiful text. It's got ruled lines. It also is the end. You can see it's the end. The text stops in the middle of this column, and that parallels the one I just showed you. So the last column of the Damascus document, if in fact it is a Damascus document, it might be the last column of some other document entirely. It's just similar to the Damascus document. There's no way we can tell from what we have there if it's the last column of the Damascus document or the last column of some other document. But that's a beautiful text that I just showed you. And as far as the Damascus document goes, it's still up in the air as far as I'm concerned. Wacholder is showing from his, and it's not his own work, he's taking the concordance done by people like Fitzmyer and others in the 50s and 60s, 50s really, and using their layout of the words and computerizing them and then mocking it up again and saying, oh, this parallels the Damascus document as we know it. He thinks it does. But the materials I've seen, to me, are still rather questionable, so I can't say. I'm happy if it does. But some of the key passages of the Damascus document, like the three nets of Belial, or the righteous teacher being destroyed by some people running after him, and the liar who spouts and so on, and who removes the boundary marker, and a lot of materials like that on fornication and so on are totally missing from the materials we have, and there's no way to know if they're parallel or not. Let's go back to the document. Hear ye knowers of righteousness. Right from the first line, they announce the basic doctrine that we consider this sect or group or movement is all about the righteousness doctrine, tzedek. These are a group of people who know and care about righteousness and consider the works of God. Works, works, works. There he does use works. It is, like you were saying, Maaseh, etc. for Kabbalah. It is Ma'asim here that they are using, or the Ma'aseh El, or etc. I don't have it right before me. In any case, works at Qumran are always Ma'asim. Oseh, if you know Hebrew, is to do, to do. And the addition of the mem as a prefix makes it into doings or acts or works. In any case, they know righteousness and think about the works of God or weigh the works of God. In the Christian New Testament, you know the mighty works of God, mighty wonders and mighty works. In the War Scroll too, we have the mighty works of God. I might tell you that in the New Testament, the mighty wonders and works of God tend to be little miracles that are done on a day-to-day level, like curings, healings, making the blind see, and things like that, exorcising spirits, speaking in tongues, making spirits go into flocks of animals and running off of cliffs, etc. In Qumran, this is not paralleled. Qumran, the mighty works of God are warfare, are the great battles God has won for his people, the miraculous battles God. But the language of mighty works of God is parallel. Just that in keeping with, I think, the total ethos of what the Gospels seem to me to represent, you have a much more Hellenistic, personalized, day-to-day meaning of these things in the Gospel materials. That to me look like Hellenism. To you they may look like something else, but whatever there are in the Gospels, there's no Hellenism here. The scrolls are just mighty zealot type Judaism of a most ferocious kind. So I think we'll just carry on from there. If you think they parallel or don't parallel the New Testament, that's something you'll have to think about. Okay, and he has a dispute with flesh and will condemn all those who despise him. Again, Vermesh is not consistent here. This word despise is the same word I think that is used all through here, reject. And the word reject comes through vis-a-vis the liar who rejects the law and the Habakkuk commentary in the midst of the whole congregation. So you should watch that word, despise and reject. It is ma'as in Hebrew, reject. For when they were unfaithful and forsook him, notice the allusion to faith here, that there is an idea of faith, and here we have the unfaithful people forsaking God. He hid his face from Israel in his temple. He says sanctuary here. I don't know why he says sanctuary. Why doesn't he say temple? These are the kind of things he does. Sanctuary. His sanctuary. His temple. He hid his face from his people in his temple. These are the tricks of the Vermesh translation. Be really careful of it. And delivered them up to the sword. And delivered them up to the sword. So every time that they did bad or were unfaithful, God punished them, not through the day-to-day miracles, but by, destroying them in some way. But remembering the covenant of the forefathers, Ramesh says here. Forefathers, the word is Rishonim. Here at Rishonim, the first. Remembering the covenant of the first. It's very important language at Qumran. The first, and again parallel to the New Testament. Because the last is going to be also very important in this language here. We do have the first versus the last here, particularly in this Damascus document, but totally unrecognizable in New Testament terms. Because the New Testament, as you know, Jesus says, the last shall be first and the first shall be last. We had a very famous governor in California who was fond of quoting that kind of scripture because he had studied in a seminary, Jerry Brown. He loved that, the last shall be first. He used to do it in campaign speeches and work up the people. But